Csorwe was sitting in the antechamber, trying to pick out the words, as she did from time to time, when she heard someone coming down the passage. She drew her feet up into the alcove, hoping she might not be noticed. A bubble of candlelight approached and opened. It was Anguinad, one of the lay sisters.
"Csorwe, dear, come out from there. You're wanted upstairs," said Anguinad.
The other lay sisters called Csorwe Miss, or, unbearably, Ma'am. But Anguinad had been Csorwe's nurse, and there were certain liberties permitted to her. Csorwe slipped down from her perch. She didn't think she was late for afternoon prayers, but it was easy to lose your place in time, even as she knew, when you only had so much time to lose.
"There's a pilgrim here for you," said Anguinad. "Very foreign, shabby-looking, although I can't say I'm surprised about that. They're saying he came through the hills on foot."
Pilgrims visited the House of Silence every now and then. Most of them wanted nothing more from Csorwe than a blessing. But Anguinad was looking at her with a soft anxiety that suggested this visitor needed something more demanding. Upstairs, Anguinad took her place at the back of the hall. The priestesses were already kneeling in rows down either side. Prioress Sangrai took Csorwe aside and explained that the pilgrim required a prophecy, as was his right. The acolytes set out lacquered trays and tapers, and the keeper of Black Lotus went from tray to tray, tipping out dried leaves and stems of lotus from her censer. When it was time, Csorwe set off alone down the centre of the hall, toward the dais at the far end. The hall was lit only by candles, and by the dim glow of the lotus as it began to smoulder. The faces of the others were like pale thumbprints in the haze. At the dais, the prioress and the librarian stood to one side with the stranger. Csorwe got a brief look at him as she approached, but she kept her eyes down and her pace stately. On the dais was a high-backed chair. Csorwe took her place here, holding her head high, looking straight ahead. The rows of priestesses and acolytes, the prioress, the librarian, and the stranger, all blurred and faded at the periphery of her vision. All she could see was the darkness and the empty air occupying the great vault of the hall. The fumes of the lotus rose among the pillars, sweet and elusive. Once the keeper of Black Lotus had completed her round, she came to Csorwe with a porcelain cup in which the seeds and petals of lotus gleamed in resin. It gave off a fine, black, coiling smoke. The followers of the unspoken name bowed their heads all at once, repeating in one murmuring voice, "Unspoken and unspeakable one, Knight of Abyss, overseer of the Eaten worlds, praise and reverence unto your chosen bride. May she intercede for us." Csorwe raised the cup and took a breath. Cedar, pepper, incense, and underneath it all, the irresistible perfume of the lotus. Her sight darkened, and a pleasant ache crept up her limbs, followed by a numbness. The lights in the hall were very far away, and they shimmered as though under water. With each breath, they dimmed a little more. In waking life, Csorwe had walked every one of the crypts and cellars beneath the House of Silence. She knew them by sight and by experience, by touch and by heart. Under the sway of the lotus, she felt the shape of them as though she had them in her mouth. The whole mountain was riddled with hollows, and at the heart of the mountain was the greater void. She plummeted through the dark and felt the eyes of the void upon her. The presence of the unspoken one crept in slowly at first, like the first reaching wavelets of the tide, rising gently, prying into the burrows of sand-creeping things. And then, all at once, it was impossible to ignore. A vast, invisible pressure, a single focused curiosity that weighed her with impersonal hunger. Then, a voice, and a face. Back in the hall of the House of Silence, the stranger was kneeling before her, making the salute of sealed lips in respect. His face rippled and gleamed, swimming.